Namaste, everyone, and welcome to the Jack of All Trades podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Musso, and welcome back. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of the podcast. I did take a break for a bit. I am back now. And also welcome if it's your first time. If you've never listened to my podcast before, or if you aren't super familiar with who I am, I would recommend going back to the first episode of season 1, which is called Jack of All Trades, Master of None. And just listen to that episode to get kind of an idea of who I am, what sorts of things I'm into, maybe what this podcast is about. But yeah, I figured before I dive into today's episode, since it has been a while, let me give you a quick update in regards to, I guess, where I'm at in life. I finished my final semester on campus at my college, and my major is video and film production with a focus on live broadcasting. But I do still have 2 more online classes to finish up. So now I've moved back home. I'm finishing up those online classes, but I'm still commuting the about hour and 20 minutes north to campus here and there to work a live broadcast. But other than that, I'm at home until I find a career and move out, basically. So that's the update. But yeah, today's episode, I figured I would talk a little bit about karate and that side of things. I have been training in Isshinryu karate since I was 7 years old, almost 8, and now I just turned 22. So I've been training for a long time, and just recently I received my application to test for my 3rd degree black belt. And a lot of people, this is a misconception that a lot of people have, that when you earn your black belt, that's it. Like, that's the highest you can get. And that's actually not true. It might be in some styles that I'm not familiar with, but in most cases, when you earn your black belt, that's kind of just the beginning. You still have so much more to learn. There's more levels you can progress. 1st degree all the way up through 9th, and then like 10th degree would be kind of like master, and it takes years and years and years to progress through that, and it's more and more years to get to each rank. So from the period of when I earned my black belt to then testing for 1st degree black belt was only a year, and then after that it was 2 years till I tested for my 2nd degree, and then 3 years. It's been 3 years, so now I'm testing for my 3rd this summer, and that's kind of what I guess sparked me wanting to do this topic for this episode, because I feel like it's a topic that not a lot of people are familiar with, but I want to talk about how karate changed my life. When I tell people that I do karate, or when people find out that I'm a black belt, they always kind of react the same. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I guess I know who not to mess with." Or they say, "Oh, so you could beat me up then." Or there's lines that I'm fed like all the time. It's just I'm so used to it. But what's cool is that my parents and my older brother also all earned their black belts, and so we were a family of black belts. And my dad and I are the only ones that still train. But that's something that not everyone gets to experience. That was my family sport growing up, and a lot of people, if they do a school sport growing up, it's just them. Your parents are taking you to football practice, to soccer practice, to dance, to cheer, whatever it is. They're not doing it with you. But for me, I got to do it with my parents, and we could come home and practice what we worked on, or if one of us had a question and the other one of us remembered kind of what we did in class, we could help each other out like that. So it was really cool. It was like the thing we all went to do on certain days of the week, and sometimes we would be testing for our next belt rank together, and then getting to each earn our black belts different years. That was really cool too. And at my black belt test, because I'm the youngest, I was the last to earn mine, but all 3 of them were at my test, and it was just really cool to get to experience that. And karate has really changed all of our lives in so many ways. A lot of people, I guess, kind of underestimate what karate or martial arts in general can do for you. A lot of people only think of like the physical side of things, oh, you'll get really good at fighting, or you can break boards, or you can, beat people up if you have to, or you get really strong or really fast. And those things are true. Those things are definitely benefits. You do you do get very physically fit if you're actively training and doing it right, but there's also so much more to it. And people can kind of dive into it as deep as they want to. Some people really just do karate kind of surface level as just a sport, as just a way to stay fit, maybe learn some self-defense, and they don't get that deep into it. For other people, martial arts is a lifestyle, and it's something that you can kind of commit to and do your entire life. And that's also why it's cool compared to sports that are like a team sport that, once you're through school, or if you're not on a team, you're done. Karate you can do for the rest of your life. There are martial arts practitioners in their 80s and in their 90s that can still train. And of course, your training's going to look a little different at that age, but the knowledge they possess is just insane. So I have no idea if that's the point that I will get to. I will say that I'm definitely not as involved as I could be. It's not as much of a lifestyle for me as it is for some people. I kind of wish it was. I wish I had, I guess, the motivation to get into it more. But I just, like the name of this podcast, I'm a jack of all trades, and I kind of spread myself thin. And so therefore I don't really put all of the focus on this one thing. So it has the potential to be so much more for me than what it is right now. But regardless, it has still changed my life. So let's kind of take it back to the beginning. When I was 7 years old, that's when I started karate. But actually, my brother started first. My brother, Ethan, who's 2 years older than me, my parents put him in karate because they thought that it would be really good for him. It would give him like a routine and structure and build his confidence and things like that. So they put him in karate. And then at that dojo, they did for Father's Day, which is in the month of June, they did all month. Dads could train for free and try it out. So my dad decided to try it out, and then he ended up sticking with it. And then, so then I started. And then after that, they did like a Mother's Day month of May where moms could train for free. And so then mom started, and then all four of us were training in karate. We never imagined that one day we would be earning our black belts, winning trophies at tournaments, teaching our own students. Like, we never imagined that. That was not even a thought in the back of any of our minds when we started. It really was just, again, something to keep our bodies fit, to give us kids some structure. It was just something to do together as a family, self-defense, all of that stuff. So it was great. My first instructor, he was a 3rd-degree black belt. Eventually, he had to close down his dojo because it was just too much, too busy. He couldn't handle all of that anymore. So, but his instructor was a much higher rank black belt who owned a dojo at a different location nearby and several others. So we kind of just transferred. So it was still the same system and the same karate. It was just, different instructors than we were used to. It was like our sensei's instructors. And so we transferred over to there, and that's where we've been ever since. And I was a really low rank when we transferred over. I hadn't been doing it for that long, but I was a very shy, quiet kid at school and just everywhere. I was shy and I was quiet, and yeah, I had definitely an attitude and like some sass in me. But in situations like that, I was the goody two shoes that didn't want to get in trouble. I was not the girl that was going to speak up in front of the class. That wasn't me. So that's one thing that karate really changed about me. And my brother too. A lot of this goes for him as well. But karate can teach you leadership. And honestly, that's something that I still have retained and taken with me into a lot of areas in my life today. I would credit a lot of that actually to karate. It kind of sets you up for success in that way. You get to a certain rank or a certain age, and you kind of start to help the students that are younger or lower ranked than you, and be an example to them. And sometimes if you're, as a class, you're going through some different basics, you might be called up to the front of the class to kind of lead that drill, different things like that. So from the beginning, you're kind of being put in these situations where you're speaking in front of the class, you're being sort of a leader, whether it's just you're at the beginning of the line for this drill and you're showing everyone how it's done, or maybe you're asked to come up with a couple exercises for the group to do. There are so many situations, even from a young age, where we were being put into these sort of leadership positions, and that only increased as we went along. It also teaches you so many things like self-discipline and respect. The respect culture in the dojo was huge. You bow when you come on the floor and when you go off the floor, and at the beginning and end of class, we bow as well to show respect for our instructors and the ones before them. So, I mean, there is a lot of symbolism in it as well. It is a traditional Japanese martial arts form. But yeah, respect, you say yes, sir, you say yes, ma'am. You call your instructors sensei, which means teacher in Japanese. You learn that you don't talk when they're talking, and you don't just run around and flail around and do whatever you want. You stand in a controlled, respectful way when you're waiting around, or you're sitting respectfully and quietly. And that translates over into, school as well. Like for a lot of the kids, they learn at karate these skills of like respect and self-control, self-discipline. And that translates over to how they act at school. It's something that can kind of spread outwards into other areas of your life. So yeah, like I said, the self-control, the self-discipline, the respect, those are huge. And just the leadership and confidence, I do want to talk about that a little bit more. So my brother and I, we went through the junior black belt system before earning our black belts, because at our dojo, because the black belt test is such an intense thing, like physically and mentally, they don't want you to be too young when you do it. And also for us, earning a black belt, we don't believe in any of that like 7-year-old black belt stuff. Like so many places do that, and it's just, to us, having a black belt around your waist is just as much a mental maturity thing as it is a physical skill thing. So you might be really skilled at 7 years old, but you do not have the maturity and just the mental fortitude to be setting the example that you should, to be leading other students, to be teaching other students, to be like, you just you don't have what it takes mentally. And so for us, 16 was the kind of age minimum where you could test for your black belt, or 15 maybe if it was decided that you were ready. But it wasn't like an automatic, you hit that age and you're going to be testing. Like you had to prove that you were serious and that you were ready, and then you would be given notice, 6 months, maybe 8 months in advance. So that's kind of how that worked. But if you got to brown belt, which was the highest rank, and you were still, I don't know, 9 years old, 10, like you still had a ways to go before you were 16, then you would go through the junior black belt system, which was basically a black belt with a colored stripe around it. And it was like progressing through the ranks again. So my parents didn't have to do that because they were already adults, which is why my dad actually earned his black belt first. And then my mom, even though my dad started after my brother and my mom started after me, but they earned theirs first. And then my brother was, I think, a year before me, because he was older, and then me. But we were junior black belts. And as a junior black belt, you're kind of in a position where you might be helping out some of the black belts with their classes. You're still a student, you're still training, but you also can assist them a little bit more. You can hold kicking paddles during drills where people are kicking. You can lead some of the basics drills, and you can take some students aside and work with them a little bit. And that gives you confidence, and that gives you leadership skills. And I remember, like, at first I was still very quiet with that, because I was like, I don't want to overstep. Like, it's not my class. I'm just the student in the corner. I didn't really know like what I could say, if I was allowed to say anything. Like, so I would just quietly do what I was told and help the students with what I was told, and that was it. But I slowly grew more and more of that confidence. And actually around this time, when I was a junior black belt, the second that I was old enough to work without a work permit, I think it was like 15 in Maine. Maybe it's 16. I don't remember. I think it was 15 though. I started working as a coach at the after school and summer camp program that my dojo had started offering. As part of that, those students, they are required to take a karate class after school. And those students are a little bit tougher to handle, because they're not there specifically because they want to learn karate. They are there because their parents signed them up for this after school and summer camp program, and karate just happens to be part of it because it's at a dojo. So a lot of them aren't motivated, or the behaviors are, kind of crazy sometimes. So you kind of have to learn pretty quickly how to handle these kids. It was ages 4 through 12, and it was big groups of them. My brother and I were both coaches. We would be helping out, helping to teach some of those classes. And that definitely, being a coach, I mean, I had to put my fist down and no pun intended, but I had to put my fist down and really be firm and disciplined in order to keep these kids in line, but also make sure that they were safe and having fun. And that really helped me on the karate side of things too. So coaching kind of helped my leadership in karate as an instructor, but then also karate helped me as a coach. So they kind of helped each other. And then, yeah, I did test for my black belt while I was still a coach. And then for the next year or two, however long I was still coaching, I had my own karate classes for a time. One summer, it was my brother and I. My freshman year of college, I was at one of our different dojo locations, and I had my own classes because I was a coach and I worked the after school program and then also taught the karate classes. And that's a big responsibility to have students of your own. And sometimes it did feel a little bit like babysitting with all of the behaviors I had to deal with, or the lack of motivation. So it wasn't my favorite group of people to teach necessarily, but I do love teaching. And I don't know, that's something that has definitely come from my time at the dojo. You know, I remember when I was younger, and because I was always like kind of, I guess, mature for my age in that, like, I don't know, I was quiet and reserved, but I spent a lot of time with adults, I guess. I don't know. I was well behaved and I could have conversations with adults. And so at the dojo at the time, they had like a teen adult class. And I remember my brother and I both were allowed in that class early, like before we were technically teenagers, because they knew that we were serious about it. We weren't going to just misbehave and fool around. Like, we could handle it. But I remember at one point in that class, I think it was a big group at the time. There were other black belts training as well. And each of us in the class had to come up with a drill and explain that drill to everyone and then run it. Just a quick one, whatever we wanted. And I remember being so shy and nervous to kind of speak in front of this group of older, higher ranked students. And I was describing the directions and nobody could hear me. Like, they had to ask me to repeat myself. And I just had no confidence. And, you know, fast forward not even that long after that, I could confidently get up in front of a room full of black belts or just higher ranks than me, older students, and lead them through a drill or teach a little something. So I don't even know how to describe like the journey of how I got to have that level of confidence, but it's just karate really did that for me. And there were a lot of areas outside of the dojo, whether it be at school or at work or wherever else, where I kind of just fell into these like leadership roles. And still to this day, a lot of times I end up falling into leadership roles, and it's not necessarily because I'm seeking them out, but I think part of it is just because I have those skills from my time at the dojo. And I do love teaching. I mean, I love being able to work with all age groups. And I realize I'm kind of jumping around all over the place here, but so I guess maybe I'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, just having those leadership skills and having that confidence to get up in front of a group of people and do something, like, that is something that karate has helped me with, and that for sure has changed my life. Because honestly, if it weren't for doing karate and all of that, I don't know if I would still be as shy and quiet and reserved as I used to be. Like, I have no idea. But I do know that just being at the dojo played a huge, huge part in that. And yeah, so many physical aspects to it as well. Even in just like how you carry yourself and what you can push yourself through. And I do find myself, especially now, you know, as a young female in today's world, unfortunately, you do have to be like just so alert and so careful. Like, sometimes when you're by yourself somewhere in public, I've found that, I think because I've trained at the dojo and, you know, we've done self-defense and we've talked about things like this, I'm just so aware of my surroundings now, which is great. I mean, that's what you want. You know, some people have issues because they're just really oblivious and they're not paying attention, and so people get them. And for me, like, if I'm walking by myself in a parking lot at night, my head is on a swivel. I try and have a hand free so that if I have to, defend myself in any way I can. um if I'm walking somewhere by myself and I notice that someone is kind of following me, I'm like, again, my head is on a swivel. I'm kind of glancing every so often just to make sure that they're not like trying to actually approach me and do something. And I don't know, like, my reflex, I'm just ready, and I don't ever want to have to use karate in a real life situation. I really hope I never have to, because honestly, I do feel a little underprepared still. I feel like even though I know I could hold my own, I need to do so much more training with that, and so much more training under pressure and like with adrenaline. I've also done some ground fighting as well, which helps me feel a bit more prepared. There were a few years when I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu because it was offered at our dojo. And recently, in the past year, they've started to reintroduce it. So that's something that is really a good skill to have as well. So I feel like I could hold my own if I were brought to the ground for any reason. So that does help me feel a little bit more prepared, rather than feeling like I have to carry pepper spray or something like that, But again, I don't want to ever have to put that to the test. I really hope not. But yeah, it's just doing karate has changed the way my awareness in situations in public, or my comfortability with certain things. So that's definitely one thing I've noticed. But yeah, all the physical skills, I mean, agility and conditioning, and all these strength in all these different areas, and having to push yourself through things. I mean, what you have to do to push yourself through the black belt test is intense, and it's like, I'm really proud that I did that. That was a life-changing experience for sure. Maybe I'll get into that sometime, although it's, we don't want to reveal all the secrets just in case someone that will be testing for black belt through our dojo might listen to this podcast. I don't want to reveal too much, because we do keep some of that kind of a secret until they're at the test. But anyways, karate really has been a life-changing sport for me, and it's just given me so many memories too over the years. But I want to get back to talking about teaching a little bit. I love teaching kind of all ranks, all ages. I've taught everything from little 3 and 4 year olds to people that are 70, and I've taught everything from white belt to black belt, so a big range. And I prefer each age group and rank group for different reasons, but I really do enjoy teaching because I want to be a positive role model to other students. I want to help other students in the way that my instructors have helped me. I've had a lot of different senseis over the years. I mean, I'm still training at the same dojo under the same top instructor, but there's a lot of black belts, and some of those black belts will teach some of the classes because one person can't do it all, And we've gone through a lot of people, and just going up through the ranks, I've had so many different instructors, and each of them have imparted on me like a little bit of their own wisdom and a little bit of just kind of how they do things, and each of them have really been an inspiration to me in a different way, left a different impact, and that's something that I want to be able to do for other students. I want to be that good example that they can look to and be inspired, and I want to lead by example, and teaching is a great way to do that, teaching and assisting. And so, I love working with adults because you can have level-headed conversations with them, and a lot of times they try a lot harder to respond to your critiques because they just understand it better, and you can just have a more mature approach to things, and you never have to worry about behavior. So that's one thing that I do love about working with adults. And I love working with little kids because it's like so fun. You can pretend, you can use your imagination, you can do all these different games, and they're learning these skills, but they don't even realize it because they're having so much fun with this game. And you can just be really expressive and imaginative, and I just love that. I love having fun with that age group. However, it can be a lot to handle in terms of like behaviors and emotions and all of that. you're not explaining these like super mature concepts to them. And then there's all the ages in between. Yeah, for me, like, especially for the younger female students coming up through, like, right now, at our dojo, because of people that have, stopped training and whatever, we have more male black belts than female black belts. So, I'm the only, pretty much we do have one other young female black belt that's a few years older than me, but she's not around much because she lives in a different state. So I'm pretty much the only like young female black belt at our dojo. That's kind of a lot of responsibility for me, I feel like, to be an example to these little girls that might be looking up at me and thinking, wow, like I can do that too, and that's who I want to be, because that can change somebody's life, just like my instructors have changed mine. So that's in the back of my mind a lot. And that's why I push myself so hard, because I don't want to be looked at as, as a failure or a weak link, or I want to be someone that's good to look up to, especially for young female students. And in some of them, I see myself, I see a quiet, shy girl with lots of potential if she can just break through that barrier of, being kind of inside her own shell. And so if I can help those students in the way that my instructors helped me break out of my shell, that would be amazing. And, that's kind of something that, like I said, I think about it a lot. And especially for the little kids, a good percentage of those little kids are not going to necessarily continue training all the way to black belt and beyond. We do have a couple black belts at our dojo that have been training there since they were, 4 or 5, or like, in the very youngest of classes, and now they're a decently high ranked black belt. So it is possible. It's just, a small percentage of people where that happens. So a lot of your students, you're only going to have a little bit of time with them, and then they're going to move on to other things in life. So it's really important that you impart on them as much as you can while they're there. And for the youngest students, karate techniques, punches, kicks, all of those things we do, of course. But we also do things like, do they know their phone number? Like of a parent or someone trusted that they can call. Do they know their parents' names? Do they know their address? Things like that, because if they're out in public and they get lost and they need help finding their parents in a store, or they need someone to call, they can tell an adult or someone in the situation, they can tell them who to call, who to look for. And we teach them about situations on the playground and how they could safely handle those situations. And with a lot of the younger kids too, we, if we hear about from their parents that they have been making some poor choices at school, we have ways of kind of dealing with that at the dojo. And I just think that that's really cool, that it can kind of incorporate not just your life at the dojo, but your life outside of the dojo, And so, with these little kids, we teach them respect, and we teach them control, and we teach them manners. And there's a lot of things, sometimes in my classes, I would just sit all the kids down in a circle and we would have a conversation about something. And it would be karate related, but also something that translates into everyday life. And so that's just something that I feel is so cool and so empowering to all these kids, even if they're not going to continue training in karate all the way up until they're a black belt and beyond. They are still taking valuable life lessons with them when they finish their time with us, whenever that may be. For me, there are still lessons that I'm learning. And I'm also at the point where I'm having to learn how to push through lack of motivation and burnout and things like that, because I think that's a normal sort of thing for everyone. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been rambling for sure in this episode, but I hope I've kind of explained how karate has changed my life, because it really has. I mean, it's given me so many skills, both physical skills, but also just hard skills and soft skills, I guess. It's given me so many of those that I apply in other areas of my life. And that's something that I'm trying to pass down to other students. And what's crazy to me is I I mentioned at the start of the episode I'll be testing for my 3rd degree black belt. That's the rank that my first karate instructor was. And my dad, he currently is a 3rd degree, and he'll be testing for his 4th degree this summer. So he will outrank our first karate instructor who no longer trains. And that's just insane to me. Like, that 7-year-old, shy, quiet little white belt, Kaylee, never imagined that she one day would be the same rank as her first instructor that she so looked up to, and that she would be, teaching students of her own, or that she would be going to karate tournaments and actually winning medals and trophies, and anything like that. So I will do an episode where I talk about karate tournaments specifically, because I have been on the competition circuit some. I have done things like that. I just don't do it all the time. But for people that are curious kind of what that's like, I do want to eventually do an episode about it. But yeah, for now, I guess I want to say a huge thank you to all of my previous instructors that I've ever had. And a huge thank you to just the sport of karate itself, and to my family who has supported me through it, even though not all of them train anymore. And I'm just so grateful to have so many memories through my entire childhood and teen years from the dojo. Things like before a karate belt test, when we were testing for our next rank, a bunch of us teenagers would be gathered in the back room. We'd all be nervous. We'd all be in a circle, and someone would be giving us some motivational talk. And then, like just that nervous energy before a test. And then you really push and push and push, and then you've earned it, and it's incredible. And just going to a class and never knowing exactly what to expect, but that you're always going to learn something. And some classes are maybe harder than others or more enjoyable than others, but we would do things like Night of 1,000 Kicks or whatnot. And now, I'm at the point where I look back on things and I talk with people like, oh, remember when we used to do this? Remember when we used to do this? And unfortunately, I feel like so much of my childhood in karate I've forgotten about. There are so many drills and games and really cool things that I would love to remember so that I could then do them in classes that I teach or help teach, but I'm I just don't remember. It's all kind of a blur. I've been doing it for quite a while, over a decade, and so all of that stuff is kind of just a blur because I was younger and I wasn't really thinking about it, and now it's it's gone. I don't know. But yeah, occasionally I'll have a memory come to the surface that's oh yeah, forgot we used to do that. But yeah, I've had a lot of really cool opportunities because of karate. I've gotten to travel to some competitions. I've gotten to train under 7-time world champions. That's insane. Having private lessons and seminars and such with people like that is crazy, but that's something I've been fortunate enough to experience. And our dojo even hosted a world tournament in, I think it was 2017, and we had the son of the grand master of our style of karate came from Japan, and he was there, and he was in our dojo, which is a tremendous honor. But yeah, again, I've been rambling. I don't know what all I've talked about. I hope I have reflected properly the way that karate has changed my life. But I guess the big takeaways are really just it's given me so many skills beyond just physical. It's helped me have way more confidence and become a leader, and it's just really affected so many areas of my life. So I hope you guys got a little something out of this episode. I know it was a bit rambly, but if you have more questions and want me to do another more specific karate themed episode, I definitely can. Like I said, I will do one about tournaments eventually, but if you have other questions or other things that you think would be cool for me to talk about, definitely comment them below, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. Leave a comment, or if you'd feel more comfortable, just message me personally and let me know. I would love to hear from you. And I always encourage everyone should try karate. I do think that you're kind of opening a can of worms sometimes, because some dojos are definitely better than others in just their morals and how they kind of approach the practice. But if you can find a really good dojo near you, I definitely recommend or just some sort of martial art in general, because it really can give you a lot of skills that you can take with you for the rest of your life. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I have a very exciting episode coming up next. So it's already been recorded. Make sure that you stay tuned for that. That'll be in 2 weeks. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope you have a great weekend or a great week or whenever you're listening to this. And I look forward to talking to you guys in the next episode. Bye.